Soon, even the most ardent silver skeptics are considering a price of $50 per ounce. I will outline that course of action in this video. Truly, the fact that we will be advancing towards the $50 threshold is more of a front line. Therefore, we will discuss the events that will transpire en route and the reasons behind their inevitability. We should investigate. And it's a strong assertion, certainty. But I believe most people would agree that $50 is on the way. But that's a different tale for when it occurs. My silver price projections during the last 5 years have been mostly incorrect in the first 2 years, due to my tendency to overestimate. So I was under the impression that it would soar higher than it did. Regarding silver's intrinsic value as a metal, I've always had a positive outlook. Yet, I've been excessively optimistic about its price. Regardless, when it comes to the metal, I prefer to be as practical as possible. Although I am not yet prepared to make a forecast, I do think we will likely reach our destination. To further clarify the opinions of various analysts regarding the future of silver and the reasons behind this development, I will be citing an article by James Hersek. It is truly a war, and that is the next objective. Additionally, some opposition is inevitable. Silver has retreated a bit as of the video's filming, but it is still around $3.20 short of $50. It's really close. In light of the recent advances, predicting that silver will reach $50 is really not that much of a stretch. But hey, setbacks can actually be opportunities. A key component is dollar cost averaging. Summit Metals, where I have connections, is well aware of this, and their customer service is second to none. Not long ago, I made yet another purchase from them. I bet you saw that in one of those videos not long ago. Fantastic staff, lightning fast delivery, and first-rate support. You may see more about them at the URL provided in the description. What we're witnessing with this rally is very incredible. You have no idea what the price will be when you see this film. Additional withdrawal would have been possible. In my opinion, we are long overdue for a significant consolidation or correction of sorts. But I believe that will simply serve as a springboard for the next advancement. And I believe that is on the way. The only thing that will change is the timing of what we perceive. With silver spot off to a good start this week, having tagged yet another 14-year high, this is something to behold. Once it hits $50 per ounce, that 14-year high will rise to a 25, 30, or 45-year high, depending on how you look at it. I'll tell you what's crazy, how the clock is ticking back to 1980 and everything is happening so quickly. You won't believe it. $50 per ounce was the previous high. It goes without saying that that is in nominal dollars. Until the technical price goal of $49.81 in the long run, there is no obvious opposition to the large increase. But $50 is that major psychological goal. The market's actions are difficult to disregard. Customers obviously have the upper hand. Their sights are set on a significant breakthrough, and it's easy to see why. At this point, all of these basics are contributing to this feeling. That is why the majority of people, including myself, are now positive on it. Currently, the most important thing is that people are expecting rates to be slashed. The market currently anticipates a 25 basis point drop from the Fed in October, with a 66% chance of a repeat in December. By the time you view those numbers on the FedWatch tool, they may have changed even more recently. We remained out of the way after reviewing last week's PCE figures. Both headline PCE and core inflation remained unchanged at 2.9% and 2.7%, respectively. Traders are slanting toward an easing cycle, and the market wants to assume the Fed is done raising. That's another thing that's hurting the dollar. the dollar index has fallen below the 50-day moving average, which bodes well for silver prices. Silver becomes more affordable for buyers outside as the currency weakens, and it is evident that demand from overseas is a key factor behind the surge. Silver is benefiting from a number of physical factors. In this case, analyst Rob Norman identifies two drivers. Rate cuts have stoked industrial activity, and governments are hoarding more physical metal out of concern for its future availability. Buyers are jumping on the silver bandwagon while they can, since the metal is experiencing its fifth straight structural deficit, and because supply chains are still uncertain. There is another organization, CPM, that feels the supply is tightening, but that some markets still have a surplus of silver. I have to stop there, because I need to remind myself and you that this is according to largely metals focused. However, they do admit that they are becoming more stringent. That, along with inflation, is why I believe the price has increased by all metrics, including the most conservative. No matter what happens with the economy or with geopolitical factors, none of those numbers will change anytime soon. With the increasing demand from solar power, electric vehicles, and gadgets, you have a lot of backing. By far, silver has outperformed gold this year, with a 53% increase compared to 49% for gold. When we consider the technical aspects, it becomes clear that silver still has potential. There are obviously a ton of uses for it, even at $50. For $50, it's not bad, considering how much it was even without the peaks. Yes, I understand. Silver still has a ways to go before it reaches an all-time high when adjusted for inflation, compared to both the 1980 and 2011 peaks of $50. There is currently resistance for silver around the $50 mark, but it doesn't materialize until about $49.81. If silver prices were to reverse course and drop all the way to $44.22, the first support level, we may witness deeper floors. Furthermore, this would constitute a significant price clawback. What this means is that there is a lot of opportunity for error, and in my opinion, more room for error to the negative than to the positive, which may be disheartening to some. Seeing silver go back there for a bit shouldn't depress you too much. However, there are lower levels nearby. The rest of the piece follows this. After a $40.73 price, one at $41.14, and another at $40. Yes, I understand. With a 50-day moving average hovering at $40.03, the next, deepest and most stable floor is $40. This is likely the level where buyers will gather in the event of a decline. Yes, I understand. That is to say, if silver rebounds to $40 again, investors may cash in huge. As a potential customer, I'd be interested in seeing it. I'd love to see a chance to grab some more silver, but I wouldn't be surprised if gold made a comeback, too. Their momentum is actually on the side of silver, though, in a favorable environment with an obvious upside objective. Currently, $50 is within reach. It will probably put it to the test. In addition, he states explicitly that he is not making any forecasts. Things will be revealed in due course. An updated prediction video is still in the works. The outcome will depend on us. Regardless, it is the target of our investigation. That is to say, there is resistance in the $50 range and immediately above it. Therefore, from the initial technical resistance at $49.81 to $50, there is a distance of 19 cents. $50 is where it's at. We might see it, but it's more probable that we'll see it before there's a huge push for a pullback down with some breathing room, falling back to below the $49 or $49.80 region. After that, we might see many touches to $50, or slightly over it. I believe that the markets would enjoy it if it were briefly mentioned there, but only very briefly. Also, I have no idea what the reporting standards were like in 1980 or 2011 in terms of the frequency of trades. At the outset of this essay, I mentioned that $49.81 was a bar, but now I see it as a technical resistance level, a very obvious one. Although I am unaware of the precise figures for 1980 and 2011, I do not believe that it ever surpassed $50 when averaged for the day. However, it may have flirted with that mark during trade. On the other hand, I'd be really stoked to witness that unfold in all its glory. The timing is the unknown, but we have a good idea of how it will unfold. However, the route forward will involve the Fed's actions being informed by data that supports current trends in some metrics, such as employment numbers. Silver will appear more appealing as the Federal Reserve solidifies additional cuts. In addition to domestic political issues related to the closure, there are also global worries and similar matters. Actually, that's happening this week, and I believe it will have a small impact on the spot prices of gold and silver, but not a huge one, regardless of whether or not there is a shutdown. I do believe it has the potential to push them up a bit farther, though I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thus, that is the way, or the journey, as it were. Plus, it appears like a lot of people are desperately wanting it. A few customers may even drop by here occasionally, if only for amusement, to try to influence it to that extent. Just saying it got there wouldn't shock me, but who can say for sure? In the space provided below, please share your opinions with me. I really hope you gained some useful knowledge from watching this video. Everyone who watches, shares, comments, and subscribes is very appreciated, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This was transcribed using turboscribe.ai. Remove this message by subscribing to Unlimited.